Hello, Rachel. I just finished watching your video. I really like how you reflected on your podcast experience. One of the things that stood out to me was how you said your favorite episode was episode 4, the one about HR. I thought it was really interesting that you invited your friend that also works in the same office as you, because it made the conversation feel really real and meaningful. It wasn't just general information. You were able to talk about actual experiences from the workplace. I also like how you mentioned topics like employee handbooks, harassment, and management. Those are really important things that people don't always talk about openly, but they matter a lot in real jobs. It shows that your podcast wasn't just creative, but also informative and relevant to real life. That made your episode stand out even more. Another thing I thought was really cool was how you talked about decorating your space for how your job decorates the space for each season. That was really cool, and how you named each episode, I think you said, that shows that you put a lot of effort and thought about your podcast a lot. Not just about the conversation, but also the overall presentation. It makes it more engaging and fun for viewers, and it shows how creative you are. Something I really related to was when you said you were surprised by how awkward you felt, and at first how hard it was to keep the conversation going with your guest. I had a similar experience when I was working on my own podcast. It was a lot harder than it looked. Having to, kind of have an improv conversation on spot was kind of difficult. But yeah, it's hard to stay on topic. It's hard to ask good questions and keep things flowing naturally without a script. Sometimes it can be a bit awkward with pauses, or you just don't know what to say next. So hearing you talk about that made me feel like I wasn't the only one going through that. I also understand what you said about scheduling being difficult. Trying to find time that works for both you and your guests can be stressful, especially if you both are busy. That's something people don't always think about when they imagine making a podcast, but it's a big part of the process. I really like how you said you took inspiration from other podcasts. I didn't think about doing that, but that is a good idea. But you still added your own inspiration and twist. Like you said, you included making jokes and stuff so it would feel more natural. I think that was really important because it shows your personality and makes your podcast unique. Also, it's great that you used your planning sheet and it helped you stay organized. I also looked at my planning sheet a lot and it helped me out. One of my favorite parts of your reflection was when you said you stepped out of your comfort zone and became more confident speaking and listening to others' experience. I think that's one of the biggest benefits of this assignment. It's not just about, making a podcast, but it's also about building communication skills, confidence. You can really see your growth from what you described. To answer your question about what my next episode would be about if I continued my podcast, I think I would do it on something that would have to do with, like, people who have children and how their lives have changed after becoming a parent. I think it would be a really interesting topic because it's something that affects many aspects of people's lives. I want to ask questions about how they would balance their work and their family, whether it was difficult to adjust at first and how their priorities have changed over time. I feel like that kind of episode could be really relatable and meaningful for a lot of people. Overall, I think you did a really great job. And on your podcast and your reflection, you were honest about the challenges, but you also showed how much you learned and improved. It was really engaging to listen to, and it made me think more about my own experience. So yeah.